In my opinion, there are two main issues with this car, or not issues, but just areas of concern, things that you may want to note. You know, they might not bother you, but there's just things that stand out compared with other SUVs in this specific class, in my opinion. The first is the operation of the touchscreen and safety systems, or the driving assist systems, and the way that they turn off when you get out of the vehicle. I'll talk more about that in a minute. The second thing is the way this thing drives. This is the new Jaecoo J7 SHS, which is basically Jaecoo speak for plug-in hybrid. It shares a lot with the Chery Tiggo 7 of the same sort of size and family, based on the same T1X platform. Here I'm testing the base spec Track version. You can also get the top spec Ridge. Prices start from just $44,000 drive away for this variant, which is a very attractive price tag considering the amount of kit that you get in here. And yeah, there's a lot of attractive features that you don't get with an equivalent rival at the same price point. Back to the driving dynamics though. Now, I know this is not designed to be a sports car or a sporty handling SUV. It is just a run-of-the-mill practical SUV, like most rivals, don't forget. So Toyota RAV4, Mazda CX-5, they are designed to do the same thing. But I find the steering in this is very floppy, and it's almost like it's working on a cam lobe, where it's like pointy at the top and the center is at the top, and as soon as you go over each way, it kind of just topples over the edge. And it just doesn't give you much confidence when you're driving along on a winding road like this, which we have a lot of in Australia. The other thing is, the front end just feels very sloppy, like it doesn't even have a stabilizer bar or something. Like, it really flops about and doesn't feel good. Now, the ride quality, it's a pretty firm ride on rough roads. Like, it feels quite sturdy. I don't mind that. I think you're better off having a sturdy ride in Australia, because we have, you know, random potholes and so on, and yeah, just rough tarmac in a lot of the country. So you need something that's sturdy and braced. That's fine, but over the top of that, it's got this really floppy and not very secure feeling. Now, I've checked out the tyres, and it's not that. They're actually pretty decent. 235 wide as well. That's quite good for this vehicle category and for the level of power this thing produces. So I think they've done well there. It's just this really insecure and unstable feel that you get from behind the wheel. And it's disappointing because the rest of the package is great. Like, you've got good interior design and presentation, hardly any scratchy plastics around the place. Feels like it offers good build quality as well, although I am getting a bit of a rattle from the door, mainly in the door jambs, the rubber up against the door jamb. It's just sort of creaking and rattling a bit. That could be highlighted or amplified by the fact that this is very quiet, because under the bonnet you've got a 1.5 litre turbo-petrol 4-cylinder engine paired up with an electric motor developing 150 kilowatts, and most of the time it is running as an electric vehicle. That's matched up to a dedicated hybrid transmission which behaves pretty much like a CVT. You've got a few different driving modes to choose from. I'll just go through some of those. You've got like actual characteristics. I'm not sure about that sound. It's really piercing in your ears. But you've got, yeah, Sport, Eco, and Normal. But then you've got EV and HEV mode as well. And basically that means you can force it into EV mode, so it runs on electric motor alone. Or you can have the HEV mode, which is what I've got now. That's just hybrid. So it will start the petrol engine when it needs to. Although when you've got it in EV mode, if the battery goes flat, it will automatically start the petrol engine anyway. So it's kind of, I guess it's more, beneficial having the EV button if you want to just sort of force it into EV mode if you're going into the city or something like that, or you just want to drive in a very quiet manner if you're going down your driveway or whatever. You can do that. But the HEV mode kind of is a bit pointless because it's going to go into that mode when it needs to anyway. Although you can go through the different charge settings as well. So you've got initial, which says here it's just the factory default mode. Please select smart mode for safe daily use. Smart mode is just a combination, and then you've got this forced mode. So you can force to recharge the battery, basically using the petrol engine while you're driving along. And it does say here that fuel consumption is going to be poor in this mode because the petrol engine is trying to charge the battery. It's an 18 kilowatt hour battery providing a range of around 90 kilometers or 100 kilometers depending on what certification you're looking at, WLTP or NEDC. Decent range for a plug-in hybrid in this class. It's not the most, it's not the longest range of any plug-in hybrid on sale, but for this category of vehicle, 100 kilometers or roughly 100 kilometers is pretty good. Visibility is excellent out the front. I've got a nice perched up view. I can see the bonnet and I can see over the bonnet clearly. I've got a bit of a gap between the mirror and the pillar as well. The mirror isn't mounted too high and it's not too large, so definitely good visibility out the front. But then out the back, it is quite confined. You've got a very small windscreen aperture for some reason. Like the pillars are very chunky, but it does showcase a kind of typical upright wagon profile on the outside. So I'm not sure why the visibility is so constrained from the inside out the back. But anyway, you do have a comprehensive surround view camera system running, and actually when you turn, I'll just pretend I'm turning along a street, it will activate this external camera, gives you a nice view of where you're about to go. You can actually move that around as well, which is pretty handy. If you've got some other thing happening on the screen, you can just move that out of the way. We'll put it into the sport mode and just see what's what. Definitely a different response, even going from eco to normal, then sport. It's even sharper response from the throttle, the pedal down my right foot. Picks up nicely. The engine revving is not in sync with the actual acceleration because, as I said, this runs pretty much like an EV. The petrol engine just assists in charging the battery. Decent amount of grip around there. That was full throttle. You can hear the petrol engine coming in. It actually offers really good performance. For this style of vehicle, it's going quite well. But then pair that in with the kind of sloppy front end, yeah, it's not confidence inspiring. And again, I'm not comparing this against a Porsche 911. I'm comparing it against a Mazda CX-5, Toyota RAV4, those types of vehicles which are in the same category, and they don't feel sloppy like that. They feel quite connected and direct and yeah, just reasonable to drive, whereas this is just falling below that level. Getting back to the first issue though, or area of concern, it's the touchscreen. I think the graphics are really good. The menu layout is easy to understand. You've got a main menu option down the side there, and then some other stuff along the bottom. Vehicle settings. You've got climate control, that's pretty accessible, although you do have to hit multiple presses just to turn the aircon on or off, for example. That's where I would prefer a separate climate control panel with physical controls, because you don't have to, you're driving along, you want to turn the aircon off, you've got to make sure you hit that little fan thing there, and then you can go in and hit that little button for the aircon button. So I find that distracting compared with physical controls, especially ones that are on a separate panel. The other area though is the driver assist systems. This vehicle doesn't have a start button, so it will turn off automatically and turn on automatically when you hit the brake pedal, for example. There is an off button from the drop down menu here, power off, so you can actually turn it off manually, but yeah, you don't always know whether the vehicle is on or off. But the main thing is, if you get out of the vehicle for a second, say to check your letterbox, readjust something in the boot, or attend to your kids in the back, all of the driver assist systems reset and turn back on, which is quite frustrating. The aircon, I think, stays on depending on what you're doing and how long you get out of the vehicle. But again, this could be all solved with a start button. So if you start the vehicle, it stays on. Everything stays where it was until you push that button, turn the vehicle off. But yeah, you've got multiple settings here. Speed limit assist, you might want to turn that off if it gets too noisy or annoying. You can just have the icon without the sound. But then you've got lane keep assist, lane departure warning. I've turned that off because I find it a bit too over the top. Then your driver monitoring camera, that seems to stay off actually, which is really good. As I said though, the rest of the package is quite desirable. It's got decent room in the back, almost a completely flat floor. You've got climate vents, flip down armrests, cup holders, good material quality spread throughout, nice thick carpet mats on the floor. And then right up at the back, boot space is pretty small for this class. It's actually dropped down a fair bit from the regular non-plug-in hybrid version of the J7. But yeah, it means that it doesn't stack up well against many of the rivals. All right, let's head off now and do the performance test and see how it goes. I made sure the battery was pretty high during the testing. I also tried it out in HEV mode and EV mode just to see the difference, as well as sport mode, obviously. But in the footage you'll see there'll be patchy water around the place, but I ran the Vbox testing separately in dry sections, so the figures at the end are from a dry surface regardless of what the footage looks like.